Adaptation is really fragmented on the agenda at the moment in Durban. The first and oldest agenda item dates back to the COP in Buenos Aires in 2004, I think it was. It's a decision 1CB10, which outlines a number of activities that would or should be funded under adaptation. That's one agenda item. The second agenda item is on the adaptation fund, which exists under the Kyoto Protocol. That's being discussed still. Even though it's operational, there is an agenda item on that. The third is the Nairobi Work Programme, which was established in Nairobi at COP12. That had a 5-year mandate, and its mandate has been extended, and there has been discussions here in Durban about what would need to be considered the second phase of the Nairobi Work Programme. And then there are 3 agenda items that follow from Cancun last year. First is a work programme on loss and damage, which will become more topical next year because there's a 2-year negotiation period window to decide what needs to be done, but particularly the small island states would want to see that turn into an international finance mechanism on insurance. There is the second item under Cancun, the Cancun Adaptation Framework, which is the process for preparing national adaptation plans. That's one of the most hotly contested discussions here at the moment. Finally, there are negotiations about the Adaptation Committee, which was established in Cancun. And here they're talking about who would be the members of the Adaptation Committee, what would be their mandate, and how it would be connected to other activities. So those are 6 different agenda items on adaptation. Then on top of that, you've got negotiations on climate finance, particularly the Green Climate Fund, but not only. And of course, some of that relates to adaptation as well. In Buenos Aires, this was 7 years ago. This was still when adaptation was, in a way, a sideshow compared to the real climate policy discussions that were ongoing, which had to do with mitigation. And it was only a few years after Kyoto. So at that time, mitigation was by far the primary objective, and adaptation was something that small island states and the least developed countries pushed, but it was still of relatively minor importance, also because the science of adaptation had not provided as much information as it has now about the urgency issue. It's a difficult agenda item because it actually pulls together adaptation to the adverse effects of climate change with what is called the impacts or response measures. This is an issue that follows from the convention where the Saudis and other oil-producing countries want to see basically compensation for a possible loss in revenue if the world were to be serious about using less oil and less fossil fuels. The idea is that if the world were to use less oil, that the income of Saudi Arabia and other countries would go down, and they feel they would need to be compensated for that. Yeah, loss and damages has been particularly pushed by the small island states. The idea that there'll be irreversible losses, even if mitigation is really successful, and even if adaptation is successful, there will be irreversible losses and damages that the small island states feel they need to be compensated. But of course, it's a very difficult discussion because in order to have a pool like that, money needs to be put into it. And this is not part of the discussions of the Green Climate Fund, so that would be additional money on top of that. I think what's going to be important also to give confidence to the developing countries that things are happening is an agreement on the Green Climate Fund. The Green Climate Fund that was established officially in Cancun. There has been a negotiation for a whole year between Cancun and now to basically have a detailed design of that Green Climate Fund. What would be its priorities, how would decisions be made, and if the Green Climate Fund does not get through, I think that will be a major disappointment, and developing countries will also see this as a lack of political will to make a real contribution from developed countries to developing countries in supporting climate action there.